So this morning we are,
I think it's page 151, best behaviors on level 3.
151. I thought we were a little bit further up, but you're probably right. Best behaviors on level 3. Guys, I think Sherry was so right that we needed to do the 21 laws before we did this book, because he references so many things from the 21 laws and then from other books too. So really, it's like John Maxwell's books just sort of, I think maybe he's just really nice to us and realizing how many pages a person can mentally conquer when they're looking at a book, instead of making them like making every book of his like this big, because they all integrate together, right?
I think also that leadership is not an end game. It's a process. It's a journey. And you learn one thing and it builds on another. And then you realize that, well, maybe you need to level up in the first thing you learned. And it's just a building process. It's like we develop as humans. We're always growing. We're always learning. And we're always messing up and learning again and learning more. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think something that really has hit me this last week, and I want to encourage you guys by this, because I know that on this whole leadership road, and I sincerely apologize for doing my makeup while I'm talking to you, but it is what it is for today. On this leadership road, it seems like there is no shortage of books to be read. There's no shortage of books to be read. There's always something new that's coming out. There's always new realizations that people are having. There's all these things, and it feels like it's this constant barrage of this flow of information into you. And I don't know if you guys have ever been there. Sherry, probably not, because this is her thing. Wisdom, learning things is Sherry's thing, right? Quoting Ecclesiastes. Yes, it's true. Except there's really nothing new under the sun, right? So but let me quote that too. But Sherry and I are both, I don't know if anybody else is doing thought coaching with Emily Gibson, but she said something, I don't know, Sherry, if it was a month ago, 2 months ago, that absolutely knocked me off my pins. And she was like, I haven't read a personal growth book in 3 years. And I was like, what? How do you possibly run the business that you do? Thank you. When your kids get old enough, Chelsea, to make you a slim in the morning, it's just fantastic. How do you do what you do at the level that you do without learning more and all the things, right? And then I realized last night, I was like, because it all starts with thought coaching. It all starts with our minds. Our brains can be our biggest ally or our fiercest adversary. And when we understand how to take our thoughts captive in the right ways, and like I look at all of you guys and think, you are high level people. You guys should be leading, and it should be that you're leading big teams. It should be, right? And I truly believe that even though this is a big helper in understanding what's required of us, what is actually standing in the way between you and the level that you wish to be at is not the contents of this book. It's the contents of your head. And what the contents of your head tells you to believe, because our thoughts create our actions, and then our actions are determinative of what happens in our business, right? And so if you're not taking care of this, it doesn't matter how many of these you read. This first, right? And this, I believe y'all have really good hearts, right? If there was garbage there, we'd have other things to deal with, but it's not. Emily said that to me this week. She's like, if it was really only the processes and the like what to do on what days of the month, then like that's not even a thing. That's, you know what to do. It's this, right? So we'll dive into Maxwell, but just a little plug again for thought coaching. If you are not doing something like that, you can get a lot out of her podcast. It is so, yeah, Diana says, my head is really the problem, working on my thoughts. And sorry, I'm just going to share something. I know this is totally off the book, but she did a coaching call 2 days ago. Sherry and I were listening to it yesterday. And this lady was talking about how she'd felt let down by her upline because of something her upline said. And I, again, knocked off my pins because guess what Emily said? Your relationships with other people are all about stories that you make up in your own mind about them. It actually really has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with your perception of them, how they make you feel, how you want to feel, and your thoughts surrounding that person. And I was like, what? My relationships have nothing to do with the other person. It's all me. That was like mind blowing. And Sherry, I agree. She put in the comments, the good news is it's also the solution. So yes, your thoughts, your mind is the problem, but it's also the solution. And like I will quote Emily, it's the best news ever. Okay, I'm done there. We'll move on to Maxwell.
Yep. Differentiating between circumstance and thought is the biggie. Okay, but we do have to move past thought coaching.
Yes.
Much as it really does make the difference. Studying what John Maxwell says allows us that 1 degree shift, because the reality is, for me to say my thoughts are wrong doesn't help me at all. It doesn't help me move to where I need to go. And for me to say, well, that thought over there is the one I want to think, I can't get there from here. I'm sorry. It's like that ladder with those steps that are higher than my head. I can't get there from here. I need little steps. That's what this book offers us, is little steps. It allows us those 1 degree shifts that can help us shift our thoughts.
And it's supposed to be a positive thing, right? All of this stuff in here, there's going to be zingers, right? There's going to be things that you're like, oh, not doing quite so well. Oh, yeah, no, got me. This is not to make you feel like the spotlight is shining on all of your insecurities. We tend to do that. How many times have you read a book and gotten zingers, but also allowed yourself that, hey, I do that well. Look at that right there, that thing, I do that really well. Good for me. We need that balance, guys, balance. So we'll go right into understand how your personal giftedness contributes to the vision of the team.
I think that's a really key one, because finding and knowing and feeling confident in our personal giftedness is such a challenge for so many. So, like John Maxwell says on the next page, he says, I'll give you an example, 4 areas where I contribute most to a team. He says, influencing people, connecting with people, communicating with people, and creating resources to help people. And he has spent his whole life focused on his strengths and finding the people around him to work around him. Yes, page 152, Diana. Working with the people around him to fill in things that aren't his strengths. He says, way back in a book, you can go from a 7 to a 9 in your strength area with a minimal amount of time and effort. But to go from a 3 to a 5 in your weakness area, he says you could spend all your life and never get to 5.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's really cool. In my mind, this is how my mind works, because I think God is responsible for so much in our businesses, and he knows our weaknesses and he knows our strengths. And so what is he, a good God, going to give to us? He's going to give people who are going to excel in the areas where we are weak. So we don't have to focus on getting from that 3 to a 5 in that one area of super weakness, instead of focusing ourselves on just really digging into that giftedness, right? So I look at the strengths of the people that are on this screen. I'll use Sherry as an example. She loves to learn. She loves to read. She loves to do like all of the things in the booky stuff, right? I don't mind it, but it is not my strength. Learning and researching and doing all those things, that is not my strength. So I look to her to utilize her strengths and her abilities to communicate and all those things that she does so well because I want her to grow and shine in those ways, because that's going to make a team so much stronger, is to encourage people to shine in those places where they are so gifted.
So I'm just interested, how many of you feel like you could say right off the bat, one of the areas that you're gifted in?
Did you say gifted in?
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah. If you want somebody that's going to get the job done, you talk to Cheryl.
Mhm.
She simply goes into action, and her work ethic is beyond.
What's the word? An actioner?
She's an actionist.
She's an actionist. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. Who else?
Chelsea said she's gifted in people skills. Absolutely.
Loving people. Well,
Yeah. Tapping into that piece where people will divulge their.
People feel safe with you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Totally.
Such a gift.
Such a gift.
Yeah.
Diana, tell me what to do and I'll get it done.
Yep.
That's an actionist also, Diana.
It is, for sure. We like actionists.
Yep.
Where were we hearing about that? Was that last week? Was the actionist?
I don't
What we
know.
were talking about? I think
Oh,
it was.
yeah, it was John Maxwell. It was on Tuesday night.
Oh, right. We're just covered in Maxwell. We do.
We are covered in Maxwell.
It's good. It's good. Amy, do you have a strength to share with us?
Explaining financials.
That's huge.
So Amy has a huge strength in making the complex easy to
Simple.
understand.
I agree.
And that is beyond. Most people go the other way. It's simple and they try to make it big and complex and create chaos. John Maxwell talks about the incredible amount of time it takes to make the long story short with the message, and the skill that is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brett, are you listening to us, or are you not free?
I'm here. And I would say I'm probably the same strength as Amy, just I use it differently, not with financials.
Yeah. Complex data transferred into a story that matters for the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I like to learn.
I think you were modeled that well.
So as we go on with this chapter, the second part is he talks about casting vision for what needs to be accomplished. And a compelling vision is clear, well-defined, and aligned with the shared values of the team. Focused primarily on the end, not the means. And it fits the giftedness of the team. Talks about level 3 leaders being able to define the success of the vision. So what it means for the people that you're working with or serving. And this really is where I think the Plexus leadership, the CEOs shine. They share vision every time they speak, and they share vision in a way that it translates to every single person in the room. They talk about their goal to serve every ambassador, every client, every person that uses the product. And I really think that they do a great job of translating that vision.
Yeah. And And they actually walk it out too. They don't just talk it big. It's really, the vision has skin on it when you meet them. And something that was kind of resonant with us, because it was really great to like do book club, guys, last week, and then spend the whole day with a bunch of Plexus people, because then we just kind of got to talk about bits and bites of it all day long. And Sherry and I think kept on talking, and Amy, we kept on talking about the concept of what people like, what do you always say? That was from last week, right? And that really stuck with us, because it's true that the thing that Alec always says is, when you're blessed, be a blessing. He doesn't have to say anything else. It pretty much covers it all. And it's very clear. And other executives will kind of try to expand on it, right? I've heard Genevieve say, if you guys just knew, if you really understood what you're sitting on, you would not be able to be quiet for a minute. And when you hear that kind of supporting vision coming under the other vision, that's where the fuel comes, right? And it's that connectedness from corporate, right? Where they are all so plugged into that vision and they've bought in, and it's so easy for them to communicate it down to the field and make it clear and simple.
I think that's the piece that we in the middle are really responsible for, is taking that vision, carrying it down, but making it tangible, making it real, and demonstrating, modeling how to act out, how to be the actionist for the vision.
Yes. And continuing to be the actionist for the vision, even when you get tired.
Yeah.
And I think we'll cover that a little bit later on in this whole concept of leadership. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop there. But it is committing to that success of the vision regardless. I wanted to mention my friend Heather, who is just absolutely killing it in everything. She's the sweetest lady. She's got, they're pregnant with number 9, number 7. They brought all their kids with them to Leaders Retreat. I can't even pronounce her last name. It has a G and an N and then an I. There's a K in there and an E. And I don't know, just when you see her, you'll know. But when you meet her, she is soft, like she's not in your face obnoxious, but the energy is contagious. When you want to talk about vibration of someone, and when she speaks about her team, when she speaks to people about Plexus, when she shares about their team's success, it's never hers, it's always their team. She casts vision on everybody else. Even though she has a vision specific for her team, she has a contagious energy and vision, and it's working. Like it's not that she looks a certain way. It's not that she fits a certain mold. It's not that she, like, I'm not saying that she doesn't, but that's beside the point. It's the energy that comes from having a clear vision and purpose, and it's contagious. And I'm seeing the results of all this because she's sweeping the contests and she's having so many people on her team being successful at like all these things. It's so fun to celebrate and see, but it comes from that clarity of vision and then the passion and the energy, because it says here, when it's communicated and understood, it fills the room with energy. And that just made me think of Heather, because she does. And it is all because she has the right vision.
The story on the bottom of page 155 just really, really hit me this time. And I don't know, it seems like different things hit me each time I read this book. But this was John Wooden, the basketball coach. And he said, most of my college players shot for a higher percentage at UCLA than they did in high school. Now, that's not normal, because typically when they move up into more competitive areas, they don't shoot higher scores. And so when John Maxwell asked him how he accomplished that, he said, in the first few days of basketball practice, I would observe the players shooting the ball from various places on the court. When I determined the place they made the best percentage of shots, their spot, I would take them to that place and say, this is where I want you to shoot the ball. I will design plays to make that happen. He would also point out where they needed to pass instead of shoot. So he made the most of their strengths. And it makes me think of Plexus, and it makes me think how some of our people do best talking one-on-one in person, having a conversation. That's how they do their best connection with people. Others do their best by doing events, by creating Facebook events, by creating systems. Others do their best with chats, with messenger chats. And our job as leaders is to find where our people connect and create change for others the most effectively, and then find ways to support them in those areas. It's not like it's a cookie cutter deal. It's not like, well, you know, Facebook groups of 7 days are the thing everybody has to do. No, not necessarily. Sometimes they're working, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're right for you, sometimes they're not. So don't ever be afraid to try something different, to find your place and to watch your people and find the way that they connect the best. We know we've got some proven ways that research says people are more successful, and we want to work with those ways. But we need to do like John Wooden does, really understand our people and how they best connect.
Totally. This is where it all gets into like applicable laws of teamwork, because we're doing 17 laws of teamwork on Monday mornings with with a couple of the leaders. And then we've got applicable laws of teamwork. It just, yeah. It just absolutely blows my mind. I know I said it already. It blows my mind at the web that he has in his brain on all of these things that just all work together. I think I have a little note written in the margin here just from previous times going through. You can never over communicate the mission. Again, I'll go back to Genevieve. What did she say at the beginning when she started to come in? Send, share, invite. Boop. Send, share, invite. Boop. Right? And now it's all about creating golds, right? It's getting everybody to gold, get to gold school, get them to gold school, like get gold, 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 because initially it was silver, right? And the mission was silver. And then they broadened their view and they were like, hold on, the bigger success comes when they hit gold. Silvers are great, but we're going to celebrate the golds. Over and over.
So he does go through the applicable laws here, and we've talked about laws before, and if you've got a book, you can review them. I think it's a reminder that we never forget the basics. We never forget the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, you know, you talked about don't over communicate. It's also the recognition and appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Recognizing the behaviors that you want to see more of and celebrating them like crazy.
I really like how the bottom of page 157, that team members need to get feedback on what went well, but they also need to be given an opportunity to tell the leader what they felt went well.
I love that whole illustration.
Yeah, it's so good. You know, she had these three columns: did right, did wrong, will change. But the first piece was asking the players to say what went well, what didn't go well, what would you like to do different next time? because, and John Maxwell talks about this often, doing the same thing over and over is not moving you forward.
Yeah.
It's do and then review and then change and then redo.
Well, it's just like we did, however many years ago was that now? Is that 2 years ago now, where we started doing events every Monday night?
Yeah.
Or every, like, how many times a week, or however that worked, right? And for a little while, it really did serve us. And then it almost became background noise for people.
And then we fell off the wagon and
Well,
it wasn't working.
Nobody
And
was
we
coming.
changed.
Nobody, like, it wasn't serving people anymore. So we
No.
had to rethink it, right?
Yeah.
It's not that it was a bad thing. Just time and
Oh.
resources were going into doing that when they could have been going into something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Team members should work in an environment conducive to growth and inspiration. Team leaders should make that happen. Man, I think about my husband's organization versus Plexus. Like, if you ever wanted to see two polarizing environments, it's just incredible. And I really wish more places would put further emphasis on understanding how to lead well and what's required, rather than just, do you know how to check the boxes, right? Like, can you imagine places, like, there are so many places in, like, work environments, right? Like, you could even say hospitals, like with medical staff, like, if they truly focused on teamwork and growth and inspiration and all of those things, rather than just, all the bottom line stuff, how different it would be for the experience of the people who work there. We are so blessed that Plexus puts so much emphasis on this, and that we are encouraged to do the same with our teams. And then it is modeled so well, even by corporate. Like, it doesn't matter who your leader is. Corporate is doing a phenomenal job of modeling this for us. As you lead on level 3, you need to make it your goal to lift up others and help them do their best. That's like the best part of our job, like, ever.
The part that I found interesting and maybe more challenging in this section was at the bottom of that page. That's page 159, where he says, I have sometimes been criticized as a leader for being too positive.
Yes.
And praising people more than I should. I think that criticism is justified. There have been times when I built up people on my team more than their performance has warranted. It's come back to bite me. Believing the best in people usually has a positive return. High faith is both a strength and a weakness. And it reminds me kind of the paradoxes of leadership, in that it's really important to recognize people for their strengths authentically.
Mhm.
It's really important to recognize and not praise them for who they are not.
Mhm.
Did that double negative make sense?
Totally. It's hard because we tend to slip into that focus of who you believe they can become
Yeah.
and who you see, right? And you stopped short of this one line, so I have to say the line, but it's a weakness I'm willing to live with because the usual benefits are so high. Besides, I'd rather live as a positive person and occasionally get burned than be constantly skeptical and negative, right? I think, like, again, we can go back to thought coaching, right? Our thoughts create our actions. I'm going to choose my thoughts about this person. Choosing good thoughts about a person makes my experience with them far better. Yeah, are there going to be some rotten apples? For sure. But again, everything's 50-50, 50% positive, 50% negative, and it just is. And my experience with that person all revolves around my thoughts. And it's all growth. Everything is here to grow you. Anyway, moving on. We're never going to get through production.
I was going to say, we're going to have to keep moving.
Never. We're never going to get there. It's
So number
okay.
4 is prioritize the things that yield a high return. And this is where in Plexus, I definitely struggle. Because some of those high return things are the growth areas, those stretching areas that it's so easy to avoid to do the things you like to do. And it's okay to do things you like to do, But if you're not prioritizing those high yield return things, your business is probably not moving forward to the extent that it should be.
Yep. You can be busy
Yeah.
doing a lot of good things.
And his comment in that little box on page 161, effective prioritizing begins with eliminating the things you shouldn't be doing. Doesn't mean you necessarily do more in the day or have more on your to-do list. It means not doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
I'm going to give you guys an example very quickly because I have to shout out Shalene, my virtual assistant, our virtual assistant. She is the one that did all those amazing graphics for the intermittent fasting and how cohesive they are. And if you notice that the Grow in Health and Happiness and the Grow and Grow in the Leader Lounge, all those flags are all cohesive and they're so pretty. I didn't do that. Could I have done graphics? Yes. Would they have looked like that? No. She thrives on doing this. And it is something that I can equip her to do. I pay her to do it. And so it's mutually beneficial to both of us. And then it frees up extra time for me because what takes her literally minutes to do something that would take me so much longer because I'd get lost in the creative process and then we'd try this and that and whatever. And she's focused on getting it done. I'm so thankful for space to be able to outsource things that are not necessary for me to have my hands on. And I would encourage you guys to look for opportunities to do that because you can't do it all. You might want to, but that's also another problem. It's okay, right? I mean, for example, I would love to have a house cleaner. At some point in time I will, but right now I'm busy teaching my children how to clean a house. So that's what's happening here. But I would love to pay somebody else to do it for one reason. One reason is, yes, of course, my house would be clean. But the other reason is I can do that and I can share my resources with somebody else who needs more resources, resources being money. They can come in and do a job. I can pay them for it. And it's mutually beneficial.
I see Diana saying I'm doing that right now, prioritizing.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. The next page gives us some great questions, page 162. And it gives us some really good questions. What's required of me? What are the things that only I can do? And then what gives me the greatest return? And then what's the most rewarding? And I've sometimes got caught on the what's the most rewarding, things I love, instead of what gives me the most return.
Yeah, I had a really interesting conversation with my friend Carrie, who's a Sapphire, about this. And she totally blew my mind. So I know that our brains kind of work in different steps depending on the level that we're at, right? So maybe, you know, as a silver ambassador, you want to be, I'm trying to think, maybe as a silver ambassador, you really wish that you could do more for leading a team. And so you spend a lot of time in larger team chats, answering questions and finding resources for people who could literally go and find them themselves, or, you know, whatever, because you want to add value to the team in a leadership perspective, instead of turning and going, I'm just going to go find more people to lead. So as a silver, that's kind of your focus. Okay. So as things get bigger in your organization, there are some things, again, that you don't need to put your hands on. My friend Carrie has a virtual assistant. Guys, can I just let this totally shrink your brain for a second? Her VA is so in tune with what she needs to do in her business. She finds people and friends them for her on Instagram and Facebook and gives them a little, like shoots her a little blurb about who they are and why she thinks that they would be really good for her to interact with. So then Carrie can go back and interact with them with herself. This lady finds reels that Carrie should do and sends her a little message saying, you need to be doing this reel and this is what I see for you. She does all of her customer follow-up, like she sends all of the stuff to all of the people. If she had an intermittent fasting group like the one that we're doing, she would be the one sending out all of the messaging. She'll give Carrie ideas for her podcast. And so Carrie just gets to step in and do only the things that she loves doing. Carrie is creating her business so that the only things she touches are the things that are of her highest strength and gives the most production. Anything else she can outsource, she's focusing on. I was like, what? So that's a higher level, but it's exactly this, right? What's required of her? She needs to show up and take pictures and do posting. Like she needs to do those things. No. Carrie, she's a sapphire. Carrie Spratley. She's got her own podcast and anyway, she's brilliant. But she's like, I only want to do things in my business that give me pure joy. So maybe it's not where we're at in like a senior silver place, because you may have to do some of that work that doesn't always give you pure joy. Somebody's got to do it. But these are things that we can work up to as we continue, right? It blew my mind.
And thoughts and ideas that because of where we are, we haven't even thought about yet. Hadn't even considered.
Well, Sherry, you have a beautiful newsletter that comes out. You have a VA that's helping you with the newsletter. Something that a year ago, we may not have ever even, right? Like
A year ago, I was trying to do it myself.
well, and this recording right here will not be uploaded by me. That is done by somebody else. Because I don't need to do that. And it takes them second, like they have a little timer and they time it. And when you realize that the time it gives you back, it's just so brilliant. So yeah, there are things like graphics that are fun to do. And maybe there's some of them that you want to do yourself and whatever. Maybe that fills you and that's what your spare time should be filled with. Spare. Sherry, I'm air quoting you. Spare time. But what could you be doing with your time, right? Somebody else could do. Moms, teach your kids to unload the dishwasher. You do not need to unload the dishwasher. Maybe you are like really focused on how the dishwasher is loaded. So maybe it's better for you to load it. Get your kids to unload the dishwasher.
His rule of thumb is 80% of your time work in your strength zone and 15% in your learning zone. Don't work in your weakness zone.
That's hard for me.
Mhm.
That's really hard for me because I've been programmed and maybe everybody else has been too. Like you're supposed to be growing, right? And so where's the area where we could grow the most? Well, in those places that we're super weak.
And I think the other piece is those are the areas that we first think of focusing on. We're very aware when we're weak in an area. And so it's what our mind goes to, our thoughts. And that's a switch to get our mind to go to that strength area and to work in the strength area.
Yeah.
For some of us, strength is a planning thing, navigating, organizing.
For some of us, that would be true. But it's just like for me, right? I would love to take voice lessons and piano lessons. Now, piano is not as big a strength of mine. It has been something that's been developed. It was not necessarily, I wasn't weak in it, but I've certainly leaned into it and become better over the last 10 years than I was 10 years before. 10 years ago, if you would have told me that I would be playing in a big church piano, I would have been like, are you kidding me? That's a bad idea. That's a horrible idea. But I've grown in it, right? It's been hard. And I think he says this, I can't remember where it is. He says, you know that you're growing in leadership if it's hard, because all leadership is uphill. You're like, oh yeah, I feel that. Calves are burning, right? If your calves are burning one day, I must be growing in leadership. Okay.
The other part, if we go into number 5, because I know our time is the clock is running down here, is that great teams, he talks about looking for common ground, but great teams have people who are committed to one another as they are committed to the vision. So that is really key. As committed to one another, caring, thinking about, appreciating, recognizing, accepting one another.
This is why this picture is on my desk. And if you guys aren't in this picture, I'm just saying, we all need to get together because this is the stuff that happens when we get together and it's fun, right? This picture, I don't know if you can see well. That picture was taken at, is that our last convention?
Yeah, the one we were at.
It was in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I love this picture so much. I mean, there's a nicer picture of all of us smiling. There's a picture of all of us smiling. And I think even Brad and Nolan are in that picture. But this, I think Sarah Cron took this picture. It is my favorite picture ever because I don't remember what we're laughing at, but it was funny. And to me, it shows the relationships with one another and the care for one another. Amy and Cheryl and I took some goofy pictures the other day, and the candids where we don't maybe look our complete best are my favorites because someone's guffawing and somebody else is holding someone's leg. And so it's that kind of stuff. And I like to look at how people are looking at one another, and you're just like, that says so much. And I'm so thankful for a positive place for women. We would love men to come in here too. Positive place for women to come and have good life-giving relationships that are not focused on pulling people down or talking about one another in a negative way or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. I never really realized that that was always a dream of mine. But when I focus, like when I think about it, it always has been. I've always tried to create clubs where everyone was invited and everyone had a space and it was positive. I started doing that when I was like 10. Not everybody got on the same page as me, but some rough years. Yeah, anyway.
I think when we go down to 164, the sixth one he has is never lose sight of the fact that results are the goal. So no matter how good of a time you have together, no matter how good the relationships are, you're working toward a goal and the vision. And that really has to be the paramount piece in this level 3 production.
Mm-hmm. I want to just go back for 2 seconds.
Sure.
On 163, it says, it's talking about momentum. Momentum provides the energy for needed change. And energy is one of those things because we do exist in a business with Plexus of repetition. Like you literally do the same things, whether you do them from a different angle, you talk to people, you bring them on board, help them to change their health, cast the vision for a business, help them to start building their own business and showing other people. And then we pass them and then wash, rinse, repeat. It is the same. Momentum is necessary. It is so necessary for energy. Momentum can be exhausting, but in a good way, because you're getting that dopamine hit, right? You're getting that payoff, right? It is so important to create that momentum for the energy you need. If you are feeling like you are walking through a muddy field in bogged down rubber boots, it will be really hard to feel energized. So, yeah, it's very difficult to make changes when an organization is standing still. Getting it going in any direction, you will find it easier to make changes to move it in the right direction. Momentum provides the energy for needed change. It's so good. But yes.
I think the other piece is that good leaders on level 3 keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
They simply keep pushing, whether they have momentum or whether things don't seem to be moving. They keep pushing. They keep coming up with ideas. They keep coming up with strategies. They keep bringing people in and asking. They keep being inclusive.
Yeah. Keep trying to find different doors to activate the momentum, right? Like, oh, we tried this. That's not working. Okay, let's go over here. Let's do something different. Let's, It's like this intermittent fasting thing that we're doing right now. The whole purpose of it is to enable people having link issues. We're having link issues. We thought it was.
Well, we're having all sorts of technological pieces on this because it's new and because it's different and because it's a new strategy. And so, yeah. Yes. So if somebody is coming up with ideas that are going to work, please advise.
We're all ears. We're all ears.
Yeah.
But every good idea has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so this whole concept is to empower you guys to be able to do it in a way that suits you, because realizing that not everybody, it's not going to suit everyone to dump people into a group, right? It's also helping people to be accountable to their people instead of just, here are my people, go ahead, right?
Yeah.
The idea is great. It's going to take a little while for us to
get it together. Yeah, so please ask questions in the chat that's set up for the leaders so that we can figure out
And
which things are working and which things aren't and all
And
those
if you're not in the chat for the leaders, please tell us and we'll add you. Sherry, you're an admin. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You can add people. Perfect. Awesome. I think we should put a pin in it right there.
Yeah.
For this week and move on to page 166 for next week, laws of leadership at the production level. And we will try to finish level 3 next Saturday. Next Saturday.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Love y'all.
Love you.
Love
Bye.
you.